Fala Fogão, hoje a gente está aqui no centro de treinamento da base do Crystal Palace com ninguém menos que John Textor. A gente está aqui para conversar um pouquinho sobre o futuro do Botafogo, que obviamente a gente quer ver um Botafogo glorioso novamente e a gente certamente tem um caminho muito bacana pela frente. Então vou fazer algumas perguntinhas aqui, tenho a minha cola em inglês para ficar tranquilo na hora de gravar, então se liga aí no conteúdo que vai ser super bacana. John, first of all, thank you so much for this big opportunity. I'd like to thank you to give us hope again. Botafogo fans are very happy with you. And I'd like to ask you six questions about Botafogo off the pitch. Because we know what happens on the pitch that depends directly on what happens off the pitch. So the first thing I'd like to know with you, Crystal Palace Academy is a state-of-the-art academy. We can see infrastructure, we can see methodology, professionals. Everything is built to guarantee success, to give opportunity to young. So I'd like to know, what is your goal and vision for our academy 5 years from now? And how do you see Luis Castro, our head coach, in this process, considering his past experience at Porto B?
Yeah, actually, I like the way you phrased that. You know, everything that we do here at the Academy is intended to build success for the future of the club. The club today, solid mid-table Premier League club, 10 straight years in the Premier League, which is, you know, difficult to do when you're competing against larger clubs that have seemingly kind of unlimited budgets. What's neat about what's happening here is, you know, really the Academy, Steve Parrish, our chairman here, spearheaded the start of this. I was happy to come in the middle of it as a partner, and along with David Blitzer and Josh Harris and Steve and a number of other partners to help capitalize the completion of it. But it's all about creating an environment where you can draw in young people and give them the very best to develop, because it's our method of competition at Crystal Palace. We don't have the budget of Manchester City or Chelsea, for example, but the talent in South London, similar to the situation we have down in Rio, the talent around the club is incredible. And if we can give them more reasons to want to be here, to choose, in this case, Crystal Palace, or in Brazil, Botafogo, then we can, where budget doesn't always come into play, it's meeting young people, giving them, you know, hope, giving them structure, giving them the technical training they need. That's not about money. That's about preparedness and hiring the right people that know how to do that. So we hope in years to come that what we're doing here in the Academy, with 17% of the Premier League talent coming from South London, as Crystal Palace is the only Premier League club in South London, you know, it's a facility like this that gives the kids a reason to want to stay with us. It gives their parents a reason to trust us, because we're not only thinking about their athletics, we're thinking about their academics. It's very important. So look to Brazil. Imagine this kind of facility in Brazil, giving parents and kids the confidence that it's really a great place for their kids to be, not just in football, but in life. Then our goal would be to be the top recruiter and developer of talent in Brazil, maybe even in South America. You know, that gives us a competitive advantage longer term at Botafogo, but it's also the right thing to do for the kids. So same model here, same model there. Luis Castro in particular, I think the press and the fans have figured out, you know, that he was my very first choice from the very beginning. When we heard he had other options, we didn't waver. The reason we were so focused on him is not just because he's a great cerebral coach of the professional game. This is the man that really set the standards and developed the FC Porto Academy for youth, you know, developed methods of training, their style of play, really built the FC Porto Academy as we know it today. So he's not just a coach and a manager of professional teams, he's really a teacher. And that's the kind of person we needed for that job, given that this type of project is what we see as next for Botafogo.
Amazing. Incrível. Não preciso nem dizer, eu fico feliz da vida em ouvir isso, obviamente, porque in the past, as I told you, I worked on Botafogo Academy and the infrastructure was too poor. So to know that in our future we can have this kind of infrastructure. It's amazing.
Well, the priorities, obviously the training pitches for the first team, the locker rooms, the workout facility, the medical for the first team. We don't even have the standards for the first team at Botafogo that we have here for the 15-year-olds. So, the academy is a project down in Brazil. So we're looking at land. We're talking, of course, to the Salas brothers, who are very passionate about this. But our priority right now down in Brazil is pitch, facilities, first team, because we really have to sort of set the professional standard that the kids can aspire to meet someday.
Yes, great. Besides the 18, Botafogo now have the B team, female team, and we have to do pitches. We have to do facilities to the professionals and the athletes to practice. What can you expect about training center for the 18, the B team, the female team along the time, and how long do you think it's gonna take to us to get this high standard training center?
Well, there are a couple of different projects going on right now. Short term, the football department has been looking at everything that's suitable to be a better facility for the first team. Lonier is terrific, but of course that really was intended as a development site for the academy. The Salas brothers have envisioned not only a youth academy, but a school. That's right after my heart. I've done the same thing in Florida, where we've integrated the soccer, the football, with a very high-quality school. So the vision really for that property, I agree with that vision. The football department is trying desperately right now to line up facilities. I've seen 4 or 5 good examples in the last week or so where we can have offices and medical and good locker room facilities and a decent pitch. But we're finding very little options down there where you have, 6 to 10 fields. You'll have 1.5. You'll have 2. So it's important, to get them somewhere quickly for the first team. But it's also important to have the B team, the second team, coordinated and really training in the same facility. Ideally, you'd like the older side of your academy, the 18s and the 23s, who are often selected to train with the first team players. You'd like those to either be at the same facility or very close to each other. So that's a challenge in Brazil right now. So while the football department is trying to solve the short-term problem for the first team, last week I was looking at large pieces of property in different parts of Brazil where you get 140, 150,000 square meters, 100,000 square meters, where you can have 5 pitches, 6 pitches, 8 pitches. Now, what we might be able to do to speed up the time of that is acquire or lease one of those facilities. And yes, the buildings take a while, but scrape the property, level it, build the pitches. These types of projects we think can really start coming online maybe in December of this year, where it's the fields first and the buildings later. But it's a desperate situation down there because you really don't have a property where you can bring everybody together. And then ultimately, those younger players seeing the first team players, on a regular basis, that's inspiring. Yes. It's educational to them, and that's ultimately the togetherness that we want to try to build.
Great. On Fala Fogão, Ricardo sent me 2 questions to you. The first is that, if you do a SWOT analysis of Botafogo, what will be the main strength except defense? The main weakness. And the coach. The main weakness, the biggest opportunity, and the most dangerous threat.
Well, the biggest weakness right now is chemistry. We're bringing a lot of athletes together for the first time. They come from different parts of the world. They play football very differently. And so you're trying to marry their individual, strengths and methodologies with the vision of the coach. We're incredibly happy. In some cases, it's come by hard work. In some case, it's good fortune. But to start the season with so little chemistry between the players and to be in the position we are at the very beginning. And we said that our goal was to avoid relegation, to try and get up to the mid-table. The very high end of our goal, I think, coming into the season would be, South America or something. But realistically, we just wanted to consolidate our position in the first league, and we're off to a really good start. To be able to do that with so little time and so little chemistry between the team, this is why you see these oscillations that the coach talks about. So I think our greatest weakness is, the lack of time playing together. The fans, they're starting to get really good at having patience. And that's appreciated. I was at a game several games ago where the booing of our players, during a game, yes, which makes it even harder for that player to perform, that was hard for me to watch because I knew that we were going to bring talent, good coaching. I think the fans recognize that we've done that. I think even though the team doesn't always play perfectly, the fans are getting more patient because they see the project in motion. But right now the weakness is time and chemistry more than anything. There are players that we believe in, that we brought in, that are not necessarily playing at their best right now. And, we hope the fans have patience with them as well. They came for a reason. They were selected for a reason. And they'll end up getting it right within our system. But you can see we're kind of all over the place right now, playing a very good style of ball, great athletes. But as a team, we just need to keep coming together. So that's our greatest weakness. Our greatest strength, besides the fans, let me talk about the coach. The coach... we replaced the last coach. Very often when you bring in a new coach, you bring in a whole team. It's good that they've worked together for so long. So if the team doesn't yet have chemistry, it's important that your coaching staff has chemistry. That's why when you bring in a head coach, you see other changes. The assistant coach moves to the B team, the interim coach, the goalkeeper coach, for example, that everybody liked, ends up getting replaced by somebody that comes with Castro's team. But that chemistry of that team was really important. And I think that's our greatest strength kind of right now. But gosh, we have a lot of work to do. We're seeing when you bring a bunch of people together, there's still gaps. Like we might have brought the right athletes, but in terms of the way they play together, we might have a hole somewhere in the setup or the roster that we want to fill. So you'll see a lot of activity in the July window.
Okay, and about the threats, the dangerous threats.
The threats. What threats?
In our SWOT analysis, what do you think is a danger for us?
I don't know. I don't feel any dangers. I think the challenges operationally are the biggest dangers. Like, we're a soccer team, a football organization that spun out of a social organization, and there are many positions that we have to hire just to function properly, to give the team on the field the best chance. And clearly, we haven't had much time to sort of figure out the facilities and the quality of the grass. The field at Nilton Santos, it's horrible.
Yes.
It's just coming up, it's like, and it's happening in the middle of a season, right? Where it's affecting the way the team plays. And I think the biggest threat we have right now is having to build a brand new football organization with a lot of new people. And I talk about chemistry, not only chemistry of the coaching team, but chemistry within the operation, so that we give our team the best chance to win. And right now we're not doing a great job at all that. The people that are there are doing a great job, but we're probably half the size of the organization we need to be effective as a top Serie A club. So our greatest threat is in administration right now.
An organization is made by people, right? And we started to create a team in management with Jorge Braga last year, then Brito, Mazuco, Diego Melo, and now Igor Holding has Tom Glick.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant professional, which is good for us, no doubt about that. So I'd like to ask you, what's the importance of these professionals to show Botafogo to the world? We have to show this to the world. You want to expand our brand, Botafogo, to be known everywhere. So what's the importance of these kind of professionals to the organization to achieve this goal?
Well, the staff that we inherited did an incredible job of dealing with a very bad situation, a team that was getting relegated. Think of the challenge that George Braga had to not only rationalize the organization to have fewer revenues from television, from sponsors, everything, less budget to spend, and at the same time have to put a team on the field to try and win and bounce right back up. So George Braga is very much an accomplished sort of restructuring professional. It's not necessarily a football guy or a sports and entertainment guy, but a guy that had to come in and just really get his arms around the organization and keep it from falling further. As we go forward, though, the organization, now that we're back in Serie A, that we do want to be global, that's why you bring in somebody like Tom Glick. He was in baseball, then he was in basketball. Then he was CEO of Derby County here in England, and then COO and Chief Commercial Officer of Manchester City in the City Football Group, and then in the National Football League. So why does that matter? Because whether you're talking about baseball, basketball, soccer, football, or American football, a lot of the business is very much the same in terms of how you build an organization to identify talent, using film, using data, using people to go scout. How you bring in strategic partners to be more successful, corporate sponsors. There's so much commonality in the operation of a sports and entertainment business and the building of a global brand. That's why you get somebody like Tom that knows how to do that across baseball, across basketball, across soccer, across football. And so expect to see more people like Tom come into the organization at Botafogo. Tom is going to be spending a ton of time at Botafogo that really know sports entertainment and specifically football. More names like Tom, changes within our existing team. It's a big project and we've got a lot of work to do.
About entertainment, our fans are having a totally different experience in Newton Santos. A true experience of match day. That we don't have this kind of experience in Brazil.
Yeah.
In Brazil, you go to the stadium, you see the game, and you go back to your home, just like that. But now we have our mascots, Bira and Biriba. Kids love them. So I'd like to know about this kind of relationship with the fans. What do you have in mind about it? Is it possible someday we have a Garrincha hologram on Newton Santos?
No, I don't think so. Look, there's been a lot said in the press about my personal interest in bringing entertainment to Botafogo. I think that's overstated. I don't wake up every day thinking that. I wake up every day thinking about football. Like, I spend my spare time watching games, watching them at the academy level, going to games. It's often been said I watch about 200, 250 games a year from the grass. That was true about 2 or 3 years ago when I was still very involved in academies and before I owned professional teams. Now I watch fewer games on the grass, but I watch just as many games on film. So I do want to make it clear, though I do come from technology, I do come from technology-driven entertainment, technology-driven consumer apps. Like, a football club needs to be a football club. It needs to win. As far as the entertainment experience, it's important to give the fans a reason to come out. Because if the fans come out, they get behind their team, that noise, that energy, that adrenaline, that helps the football team win. So it's not that I take offense when people say, he's going to bring entertainment to football, because I personally start with football. It's how I think. The entertainment stuff is fun. We have to fill the stands. We have to, right? And because that energy not only, channels through the players, it's also how we sell Brazil football to the world. It's hard to tell the world that Brazil football is important if nobody's going to the games, right? And so that's something we need to fix.
Just two more questions. About the stadium, Newton Santos Stadium, you already told us, you already said the standard is too far from the field, and I agree with you. Every Botafogo fan agree with you. And you talked about a stadium, a small stadium, to have people close to the field, the depression. So how do you see this possibility to, in Rio de Janeiro, find a place to build a new stadium?
Yeah. Well, there's land. There's land all over Rio, either undeveloped land or land that's been developed where there's no more viable use for the property, land that can be cleared and created. I don't think we're going to have a hard time finding land. I think what we have to do, and I'm just meeting people for the first time, I can't just show up as like the guy from out of town and say, I know exactly what this town needs. The local legislature, the government, they've been extremely friendly to me, but I haven't met a lot of them. I haven't sat down and talked about what they believe the community needs. But yeah, as a club and for our fans, yeah, I would like a stadium. I would like the fans to be like right on top of the pitch. I would like it to be, I said 25,000 seats, but I think that's too small. I think our fans can fill a much bigger stadium. It's more how it's built, where it's located within town. It's got to be more accessible. It's got to be safe. We got to get the kids back. It's often said that we're like an older club. I meet fans. They say, "Oh, my father was a Botafogo." And I'm like, "Well, what's wrong with you?" And they're like, "Well, I'm Flamingo," or I'm like, and so we need to reconnect with the younger populations, and that a lot of that happens with the in-game experience. But I think there's land. I think I do need to talk to government officials. I think it's important, that we have these great facilities like Newton Santos, that they get used by somebody. That neighborhood still needs something. So we'll be there for a good long time. We're going to bring some live entertainment, some concerts, some more activity there. But we are looking for land right away because we think we can build a better long-term experience. We also would like the stadium, the academy, the social club, the volleyball, the swimming pools. We'd like a lot of that closer together so Botafogo can really define itself in soccer and, in the social club as well.
Amazing. Last question. Ricardo sending us another question. So after a meeting with the other club's leaders, do you really think that they are putting their own interests aside, trying to find the best deal to everybody?
Well, everybody right now is focused on domestic and cutting up the pie, and the pie hasn't grown any. So it's not realistic to go ask Flamingo, just give up 30% of your revenues and give it to everybody else. They're not investing. They're not looking internationally. They just want the money, right? That doesn't happen anywhere in life, anywhere in the world, nowhere in business. It doesn't happen in sports. And so when people complain about, the split, from 3.5 times revenue down to 1 from the top to the bottom, honestly, it doesn't sound fair when you say it, but the reality is Flamingo's probably getting 9 times what those smaller teams are right now. So everything they're talking about right now, they are giving up something. They're taking a risk, like doing this with us. It'd be easy for the top clubs to just continue doing what they're doing, continue beating up on the small clubs, and taking the benefits of their very large fan bases. So just entering into this discussion, they know they're giving up something. And that's, I know that. I want to continue to communicate that because I think this story that, the smaller teams aren't getting enough, that's just the reality of the way the economics of Brazil football are right now. Now, how do you fix that? You have to start talking about international. What happened in the Premier League 25 years ago is that everybody was focused on domestic because that was the money that was coming in right then. International was not much at all. So they didn't spend much time thinking about international. Well, here we are 25 years later, and by the time we sign the next TV contract in the Premier League, international is probably going to be bigger than domestic, right? And so, the Flamingos, the Corinthians, I think the Botafogos, we're going to do a very good job building our brands globally because we have the resources to do it. And those big brands are also going to bring more eyeballs back to Brazil football, which is not only going to help the big brands, but it's going to help everybody. So if we can just get through this initial period of the next few years where the TV contracts are mostly about domestic, and and maybe the guys at 777, maybe Manchester City when they come into the market, Red Bull that's already in the market, like those that already have global businesses, we will work together to try and bring more eyeballs back to Brazil. So I'm not spending too much time thinking about the domestic because I don't know Brazil. I know the rest of the world. I just hope that the folks at LIBRA and the additional clubs that are joining, I hope they get it figured out quickly. They get it right. Everybody's patient. And nobody's talking about what he's getting, what we're getting. We have to grow the pie. And, you know, when you grow the pie, the Flamingos, the Corinthians of the world, they'll share even more, right? But you can't just go to them now and say, you know, let me take what you have that you've built up because we've asked for it, right?
Foi uma experiência fantástica aqui, tá com o John Textor, e o futuro do Botafogo vai ser glorioso. Thank you so much for giving us hope again.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thanks.